Today, my friends, we've got your full in-depth review of the brand new 100mm F2.8 macro G Master lens from Sony here. We're going to be comparing it to the OG, the 90mm F2.8 G series macro, as well as the Tamron. Those are the three main autofocus macro competitors here in the space for Sony full frame mirrorless. And this thing, man, does not disappoint. This thing is absolutely incredible. A massive, massive upgrade that nobody really asked for, and the first true macro G Master lens. So let's dive in. Here are some basic specs to get you going, guys, as well as some sample shots to show you just what this thing is capable of. This thing came out of nowhere for me, and honestly, I think it's one of the most innovative and best Sony lenses that they've made in several years, which says a lot because they've made some pretty incredible stuff. Everything you see in this video was shot with this lens using the Sony a7 IV, just for the record. And let's dive right into this lens. This is not really a Mark II of the 90, although it really feels like it. It's got the nostalgic clutch mechanism that we've really only seen on this thing, which is pretty cool. But this is a true G Master quality lens. This thing has blown me away in just about every aspect. Now, this is not just a regular run-of-the-mill one-to-one magnification macro lens. This is so much more, and I don't know how Sony's done this, but this is just phenomenal. This is their first ever 1.4:1 magnification macro lens right out of the box, with the ability to add teleconverters, either with the 1.4 or the 2x teleconverter, to give this thing more reach and magnification. Yes, I'll say that again. You can throw this on, effectively making this a 200mm f5.6 lens, which is pretty darn cool, but you can also use these things to get even more magnification in macro. That's where this thing utterly blows my mind. With the 2x teleconverter, you're getting 2.8 to 1 times magnification, which is absolutely insane. Very, very cool feature, and I don't know how they engineered to do that, both of those things really well, but here we are. So if you did want to take full advantage of that ability, it does come at the cost of extra teleconverters. So I think for a lot of people, I don't know if that's going to be something that they would be into. If you're into extreme macro, definitely. But if you do have other telephoto lenses, like a 100-400 or the 200-600, you can throw that on and get insane reach. They've doubled down on the engineering and the ingenuity of these lenses moving forward, I think. And I don't know how they did it, but they've done such a great job, and you're gonna see soon the image quality of this thing is just phenomenal. Here's a few more of my favorite photo examples. Now, with 11 aperture blades, the transitions and the backgrounds of this thing are just beautiful. True G Master quality. And with some macro lenses, you do get some kind of busy backgrounds and some artifacts, but I am blown away at the quality of this G Master lens. And I don't really know why. It's just kind of to be expected, the trade-offs with a macro lens compared to other lenses, but really there isn't any with this lens. It's just magnificent.
If you don't have a ton of macro experience, one of the things that's really important to understand is that working with these magnifications 1:1 and greater, you're going to have a very, very small, shallow depth of field. Now, this is important because you're not going to be able to get a lot of your subject in focus. We rely on something called focus stacking, which can typically be done in a lot of Sony cameras, or you can use manual setups as well. You're going to take basically a bunch of photos and then stitch them all together to get a nice in focus image. I'll link a tutorial showing you just how to do this in your Sony camera, and I like to do all my editing in a program like Luminar Neo, which makes it easy, especially if you don't have a ton of experience. It's a low-cost editor with a ton of features, including drag and drop focus stacking, just like this. A really cool program that doesn't have a subscription model unlike Photoshop, and I do appreciate that. I'll drop a link and a discount code in the description if you're interested. This is not a sponsored video. Next, we'll have a look at the amazing autofocus of this lens using Sony's best and newest technologies. This thing is very fast, very consistent, and very accurate. I noticed the consistency was fantastic and the smoothness overall was just great. Now, this is a pretty tough test showing just how capable this lens is from a very close subject and then something quite far, and just how easily it transitions from those 2 points. In comparison, here is the older 90 G series lens. This lens was really never known for its autofocus capabilities, but as you can see, it does a decent job with a few hiccups here and there. I also threw in the Tamron, which really doesn't disappoint. It's very quick, arguably sometimes even quicker than the G Master, but I don't find it nearly as smooth or as consistent. Keep in mind that the Tamron and the G Master are both newer lenses, and the 90G is several years old now. And here's a low light stress test of the three lenses once again. The 100G Master performs very well, and this is good considering using macro, there is often not a ton of light available, and as you can see, it does a great job, almost honestly just as good as in really great lighting conditions. Let me know down in the comments what you think about these test results. Here is the Sony 90, and yes, it does struggle a little bit here in low light. It does okay until it really doesn't, so yeah, just some of the limitations of the older lens. And the Tamron here once again, as you can see, does a really good job, especially in these lower light conditions here. This thing bats out of its price range. I think it's a fantastic performance overall. Next, we'll have a look at the sharpness and the optics here, starting wide open at f2.8. The center of the image, just like the corners, are going to be annoyingly sharp. This lens is absolutely outrageous, corner to corner. The sharpness here is absolutely out of this world. I don't know if I've seen a sharper lens. I'm calling it here. This is the sharpest lens I think I've ever seen. This is absolutely wild here in the corners, f2.8. As we go down here to f4, it even gets better. A little bit of vignetting wide open, and even at f4, stopping down to f5.6 to see that vignetting completely disappear. But the sharpness here is absolutely flawless. This is bananas. This lens is incredibly sharp if you're a portrait photographer or a wedding, you're doing skin, you're doing fine details on things that you might not want, it will be an issue. So just know that if you are looking to shoot the details here at f8, still absolutely phenomenal, great color, great contrast, unbelievable lens right here in terms of image quality. f11 down to f16, we see just the tiniest bit of degradation here. If you watch as I go back to f11, just the tiniest little bit. There's f11, here's f16. It's almost indistinguishable. So again, all the way down here to f22, you start to maybe notice a tiny little bit of things here and there, but in terms of color fringing, there's nothing. Image quality, sharpness, contrast, color across the frame, every aperture, every side of every pixel of this image is just phenomenal. So in terms of image quality, it really doesn't get better than this. And for fun, here's a sharpness comparison between our three competitors, the G Master over here, the Sony 90G, and the Tamron 90 on the right. We can notice right away that there is a difference in contrast between the three. The best contrast going to the G Master, the 90 that's a little bit washed out, and the Tamron is a decent performance there. Colors are vibrant in all. Let's have a look at the sharpness in the center and in the corners. So here in the center, there is a clear winner, of course, and that's going to be the G Master over here. We're really pixel peeping at this point, of course. There's a tiny bit of color fringing here. You can notice on the edges in the 90G. The Tamron does a pretty good job, but the sharpness is just unmatched here in the G Master, and this is unsurprising. The corners are really going to tell the whole story here. Just a phenomenal performance wide open, but when we get into the corners here, you can see that the details easily win in terms of the G Master. The 90's okay. It does a decent job, especially at wide open at f2.8 here. The Tamron is a great performer, but the edge definitely goes to the G Master here. Let's have a look next at f8. Here at f8, a great performance across the board. The fine details once again going to the G Master. Just the pretty much again one of the cleanest and the sharpest lenses I've ever seen. The old 90, of course, again, very good performance, but there is just a little bit of kind of haziness on the fine edges, and the Tamron's kind of somewhere in the middle. Once again, let's have a look at the corners here at f8. We should all get a very good performance here across the board. And yes, we absolutely do. Almost indistinguishable. The resolution of the G Master is just on that next level. I think the Tamron also does a really good job, but if you're really pixel peeping here, you can see that the edge overall definitely goes to the G Master. Again, this isn't surprising, this is more for fun. Any macro lens of this caliber is going to perform very well, but yes, the edge does go to the G Master. Now what about macro quality? After all, this is a macro lens. This thing does do 1.4:1 up to 2.8:1 with the teleconverter, and it does a phenomenal job at macro distances. It is insanely sharp and clear. It's absolutely beautiful. Here's the difference between the GM, the G, and the Tamron once again, and here it is really close up, a 2x crop, and as you can see, the G Master is just phenomenal. To be fair, I did do this at 1:1, but again, the G Master can go right out of the box with no teleconverter up to 1.4:1 magnification, which is just incredible. Now all of these images were shot with the 2x teleconverter, giving us a 2.8:1 magnification. This is using autofocus, and this is where this lens is just crazy. Really no other lens gives us autofocus capabilities at these magnifications, and of course, using such a small depth of field again, it can be really challenging, but this is to show you that it is absolutely possible. You will probably have to use a tripod and focus stack if you really want detailed images of tiny subjects. There's just no getting around that. But just know that this stuff is possible handheld, and to help with that, optical steady shot is built into this lens. And here's an idea of what that looks like at 1:1 magnification. It is pretty tricky, and I'll also show you the 90 in comparison to give you an idea about how much it's improved. There is a little bit of improvement, but still there's always going to be a little bit of shake depending on these magnifications because every movement's going to be magnified. The lens's OSS will work with your camera's IBIS, so depending on what camera you have, it might be a little bit better or worse.
Next, let's have a look at the build and features of this lens. And it has pretty much everything you could ever ask for. It does feel like an upgrade compared to the 90. It's more of a plasticky feel compared to the metal build of the 90, which does have some plastic in there for sure. But overall, it's a little bit heavier. No deal breakers in terms of the size and the waist, just a little bit taller. But overall, you're getting more bells and whistles on the G Master here, unsurprisingly. First, you've got a full-time direct manual focus switch, which is really nice. Love that. So basically, if you're using autofocus and it's kind of missing a little bit and you want to fine tune it, you can basically switch to manual focus on the fly and nail that focus. Next, we've got a focus limiting switch. We've got the optical steady shot on and off. We've got an iris lock, and we've got a click switch for your aperture ring here. So this is going to be an amazing lens whether you love to shoot photos or videos. It's just going to do everything. Above and beyond that, it does have a little automatic manual focus switch, which is crazy and kind of redundant because it does have this clutch mechanism here, just like the 90, that does allow you to see your magnification right on the lens there. So you can really quickly, easily switch between automatic and manual focus. And it also has two customizable focus hold buttons right there. So you can program this thing in some cases just the way you like it. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. On the bottom, we've got a nice metal mount with a rubber gasket for weather sealing confidence. And of course, on the top here, we've got all the coatings to help with ghosting and flare on your 67mm filter threads. This is a little bit better than the oddball size of the 90, which is 62, I believe. 62, yes it is. So it's nice to see that that 67 is a little bit more common. So if you're wanting to throw some filters on there or something, they're probably gonna feel a little bit better. Overall though, for the build and the features, every feature you could possibly want. The build is fantastic, the quality feels there. True G Master experience. So there's my thoughts on the amazing new 100mm F2.8 macro G Master lens. I think this thing is an absolute slam dunk, and at the price around $1,500 US, which is not a lot more than the G series lens MSRP, somehow I think it is an absolute no-brainer. At MSRP, there's absolutely no chance you're buying the 90 over this thing. And if you're wanting the best of the best with, you know, everything you could possibly want in a lens when it comes to macro and just about every other thing you wanted to shoot. This is your lens, man. I absolutely love this thing. I will be picking this thing up. And of course, if you do want to take advantage of the teleconverters as well to use the extra reach and the magnification, that is going to come at an additional cost. So just keep that in mind, guys. But overall, I think this thing is a slam dunk. Let me know all your questions and your comments down below. Let me know if you're going to be picking it up. And if you do, I will drop an affiliate link down there for you. It helps out the channel, guys. Much appreciated. And thanks so much to Sony for sending me this for review. As always, they didn't pay me and they have no input on this video whatsoever. Guys, like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you next time.